going on, guys? Today we're going to go over probably one of our most important exercises, the squat, with some different variations. So kind of what we're looking for is we want the feet just slightly outside the shoulders. Now this can vary depending on what we're doing, but we're going to go with that today. We're always flat-footed, the butt should go back, and the knees should be tracking the toes. Right there, our toes are slightly angled out, and it was about 5 to 10 degrees. If you really want to bring a protractor out, that's fine. Our feet are screwed into the ground, creating some torsion through the hip. And we always have a neutral head and also a neutral wrist, which is really important when we get into the back squat. One last thing before we go on to why we do it is that we need to squat to depth. We need to get to 90 degrees or lower if we can.
The reason we do the squat for entire lower body strength. It increases strength and flexibility throughout our ankle joint, knee joint, hip joint, and through the core. We also get an upper back benefit with some of our variations, some shoulder work, and other musculature. Almost the entire body, I would say. This is also very applicable to sports, improving sprint speed, rate of force development, ability to jump, and it helps to decrease the rate of injury.
Right, now we're going to go over some common errors that we'll see on the squat. This is only some of them. We see quite a few. So this is going to be a really high squat. We have a lot of force being thrown on the knees here, and we want the hip to take the brunt of that. Next, we're going to see a valgus knee angle. This is going to cause more shearing force through the knee. Right here, we're going to have an imbalance of weight distribution on our foot. We're going to get onto the toes, and our feet aren't going to be flat, leading to some more shearing force through the knee. Talking about foot angle here, this is too wide or too open. Now we're too narrowed off and pigeon-toed. This is something we see way too often, a hyperextension of the neck. We want that neck to be in a straight line. Right here, we're just tightening up the back. We need to keep the tight upper back right here to maintain good posture on our squat. And lastly, we just have a hyperextended wrist here, which can really lead to some trauma.
Now we're going to look at some variations of the squat. First up, the front squat. This is a great lift. It also develops the upper back, primarily the rhomboids. This also builds our Olympic lift, the clean. Next up, the overhead squat. This is going to be our snatch builder, improving our overhead position. It's also going to strengthen our upper back, shoulders, and thoracic musculature. Depth is necessary on all variations of squatting. Next up is the Zercher squat. This is useful for athletes with shoulder injuries and weak cores. We have a very basic squat here, the goblet squat. Basically our next step after the bodyweight squat is mastered. Anteriorly loading the core here, a little bit more quad. We have an advanced squat here, the pistol squat, our unilateral squat. Flexibility is a huge factor in this squat, and it can be tested. Now we're looking at the low bar back squat. This is going to load the posterior a little bit more than our high bar. And the low bar box squat, primarily used in powerlifting to develop the posterior chain